This is the influencer support map, and we use this just to understand the forces that are acting for or against us within a particular sales initiative. And so, whatever we're selling, what we're really selling is change. And when an organization goes through change, there are winners and there are losers. And nobody wants to lose, and everybody wants to win. So we plot the various influencers on this matrix, and the first thing we're looking at is whether or not they are emotionally activated with respect to the change. So we're looking at their level of concern. Whether it's low, they're really indifferent, the change doesn't really affect them, they're not emotionally activated. Or if it's high, they are emotionally engaged, that somehow this change, whether it works for them or against them, it really is something that affects them emotionally. So that's what we're looking at. If they are emotionally activated, we say they're active. If they're not, we say they're inactive or they're passive. So that's looking at emotional engagement with respect to the change. The second axis here is looking at their support, level of support for our initiative. It is whether they are highly supportive. That means they like what we're proposing, they think it's positive for the organization, and they want to support it. Or they do not like what we are proposing, they don't think that this change is good for the organization, and they're not going to support it. So support is, do they like our solution or not? And then activation is whether or not it really impacts them personally. So for example, a passive supporter, it could be it could be an executive who likes what we're doing, but you know what? It doesn't really affect them, but they like what we're doing. So we would consider them a passive supporter versus an active supporter, somebody who really will win based on what we're proposing and will do everything that they can to help us be successful. An active blocker, somebody who's going to lose based on what we're proposing and is doing everything they can to block us. And then a passive blocker is someone who doesn't really like what we're proposing, but it doesn't really affect them. And so what we need to do is plot all the influencers on this matrix, and then we'll use this to figure out our strategy. And just as an example, we may not have access to an active blocker. We may know that this person is emotionally engaged, they do not want us to succeed, they will not meet with us, but there may be a passive supporter who has a relationship with an active supporter. And the active supporter cannot influence the active blocker, but the passive supporter can. And so by plotting everything out here, we'll be in a better position to figure out what our strategy is. And again, the other thing we need to look at is the other dimensions of the influencer map, which we'll talk about in another lesson.